These videos are brought to you by His Vessel Academy. Check us out at hisvesselacademy.com. Welcome back. In our last video, we talked about multiplying polynomials where I did a trinomial and a binomial. So if you missed it, you might have a little more trouble with this one. You might want to look it up. It would be the one right before this one. Anyway, I want to make sure we realize that the steps are going to be the same when we multiply two trinomials. You're going to have a distribution of the polynomials, so you're going to distribute them. You're going to multiply each term of distribution, and you're going to combine like terms. So we're still going to have the same steps. It's just going to be, as I said, it might be a little bit longer, and sometimes it can be a little more confusing. So we're going to actually do a couple things because there's so many negatives in here. We're going to do a couple things that may help you keep the negatives straight. You might want to also implement them for the trinomial and binomial. I didn't actually do it then. So the first thing we want to do is we want to distribute out this here, right here. And what I mean by that when I say that is you notice that this here is, I kind of made it all red. And I basically took this entire thing right here and I put it in each of my terms. So I put it in right after a squared. I put it after a negative a 4a, and then after negative 3. And what I implemented this time because of the negatives is instead of putting minus 4a, I put a plus negative 4a. This way I don't confuse it. I do have to go across 3 whole numbers. In other words, where I'm distributing it 3 times. And a lot of times by the 3rd time I tried to do that, I might forget that I have a negative there. So it's going to be easier for me to see if I have this plus negative there. Once we have this distributed, then we're going to multiply each term by distribution. What I mean by that is I'm going to actually take this a squared and I'm going to multiply it to this 3a squared. So I'm going to end up with 3a to the 4th. It's the first thing I want to do. And then I'm going to multiply this this a squared to this negative 5a. So it's end up being a minus 5a, and I end up with cube, because remember there's a power there. 2 plus 1 is 3. I'm adding my powers. And then I'm going to do a squared times 2, and I just end up with plus 2a squared. And I want to make sure you realize that I end up with my highest power, and then I count down, and I end up with 3 terms. Okay, I have 3 terms in here. I end up with 3 terms. 4, 3, 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and knock that off. I'm just going to cross it off so that way I don't forget and go back to it. I don't want to. So now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do this negative 4a, and I'm going to multiply it to this 3a squared. So I'm going to end up with a negative 12a, and it's going to give me to the 3rd. And I'm going to then take this negative 4a and times it by this negative 5a. 2 negatives make a positive. I'm going to end up with a positive 20a squared. So far so good, hopefully. And then I'm going to take the negative 4a and multiply it to 2. So that gives me negative 8a. Okay? I'm just going to go back through. I always like to double check my numbers and say, okay, I have a 3, 2, 1. I know I'm good there. But I also want to make sure that I have this 3 times 4 is 12. Sometimes when you're going through this a little bit faster than you should, you might end up thinking 4 plus 3 instead of 4 times 3. And that will give me an error in the end. So negative 4 times negative 5 is positive 20. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. So I'm okay there. So now I'm going to do the next one, the last one. So I'm going to cross that one off. That's all done. The very last one I do, I end up with a negative 9a squared. I have a negative 3 times negative 5a, positive 15a, and a negative 3 times a positive 2 is a negative 6. And again, I'm going to check my numbers 2, 1, 0. Okay, so you'll notice if you kind of think about it, if I have a square to a square, if I have 2 of them and I have a square 1 and they go in order like this, I'm going to have my first set is going to be 4, 3, 2. My next set is going to be 3, 2, 1, and my last set is going to be 2, 1, 0, because a to the 0 power is just 1, okay? So I can check that also for 3, 2. I look at my exponents, 3, 2, 1, that's to the first power. 2, 1, and x to the 0, we don't write, it's just 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So now I'm okay here. I have all of my numbers. I've double checked just to make sure that I know how to multiply, because believe it or not, that is something you all forget when you go through this. And now I'm done with all 3 of these. Okay? So the last thing I have, so that's my step 2, and I'm going to go ahead and show you a picture of it. And I color-coded it so I have it all nice and neat too. That helps a little bit. But what I want to do is I want to combine my like terms. Like I mentioned in when I multiplied the trinomial to the binomial in my last video, I'm going to mention it here, you're going to notice that my first and my last terms are not combined. There's nothing to combine them to. So this is going to end up being 3a to the 4th, and I'm going to end up with negative 6, okay? So there's no combining here. Got it? So that's I just have those together. I'm now going to realize that I have 2a cubed, okay? So 2 of them. So I'm going to take negative 5. I'm only adding the coefficients. I'm only saying negative 5 plus negative 12 is negative 17. And then I'm going to keep my variable the same. And I do like to knock them off as I go. And I'm going to go ahead and knock the 6 off because I put it down here. So now I have 3a squares. Got to make sure I realize that I have 3a squares. So I had 2a cubed. I now have 3a squares. Each time you're going to get bigger. So if I have to do something to the 4th power and I have our 3rd power and I have 4 terms, it's going to be that much bigger. So I have 2 plus 20 minus 9. And it might be easier to do 20 minus 9, which is 11, 12, 13. That might be easier. However you want to do it, you're just going to take, and you can even use a calculator, 2 plus 20 minus 9. Just realize that whole thing is multiplied by a squared. And that may help a little bit as well. I do end up with a positive 13a squared. Got it so far? Hopefully. Now I'm going to go ahead and knock off my numbers so I don't use them again. This way, if for some reason I forgot one, I can say, wait a minute, I forgot him. So say, for instance, I only added these two and I put 22a squared. When I get to this point, I'm going to notice that I have an extra a squared. Oh, forgot to add it. I can, or in this case, subtract, or forgot to put it in my actual equation. I want to make sure I do that. So I'm going to do my next one, and now I have a negative 8a plus a positive 15a, and that's basically 8. 15 minus 8 is 7. So I end up with a 7a positive. And I'm going to go ahead and put my 6 over here. I keep moving him. Poor little guy, he keeps getting moved. But I'm going to put him closer. And I'm done. And I can kind of check my work by going 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Again, I want my highest at the front, my lowest at the back, so that way I can check my work. I don't want to just hilly-nilly put any of these numbers down. This makes it so much easier for me to say, oh, wait a minute, I have a 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. If any of them are missing, I can check to see if maybe they got canceled out. So now I'm done, and this is the answer that I would have. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide so you can kind of see it a little neater and be able to see it. So what I'd like to try now is I want you to do it. Okay, there's one more here. I want you to distribute the binomial, multiply each term by distribution, combine the terms. So we're going to do them together. First thing I want to do is I want to distribute this whole thing to each of these terms in here. Again, I'm going to use that plus negative 3x and plus negative 1 because it's less confusing for me when I'm going through this. This way, by the time I get to this negative 2, I don't end up with a negative 6x. It's got to be positive because a negative 3 times a negative 2, it can be positive. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute my terms. So I'm going to do a 3x to the 4th plus 2x to the 3rd minus 2x squared. 4, 3, 2. I can see that I multiplied, did good. There's nothing, I mean, this is a 1, so my coefficients are going to stay the same. They're not going to change when I have a 1, which really helps me. This one here, I'm going to go ahead and do this one. I have a negative 9x and I have cubed. I'm going to multiply to that, gives me negative 6x. This gives me, squared. There's 2 of them. So this is another reason why I want to count down 3, 2. And then I'd have a positive 6x. So I want to make sure 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. So this way, if I forget, like I almost did here, I can always add it afterwards. So now I have a negative 1 times 3x squared. So I have this is just, all this negative 1 is going to do is go in here, change the signs, that's it. So I'm going to end up with a negative 3x squared minus 2x plus 2. That's it. That's all that's going to do. So we're going to go to the next slide so we can kind of see it a little neater, so I don't have to, you're not trying to read my handwriting. Sometimes it's not that great. So again, we're going to notice the first and the last are not there. I'd like to see you combine this and see how well you do. You're going to combine these 2. You're going to combine these 3. Whoops. And you're going to combine those 2. So all you're going to be doing is adding the coefficients. You will have an x to the 4th, an x to the 3rd, x to the squared, x, and then an x to the 0, or basically a constant of 2. So let's take a look at what that looks like. When we took this, we had a 2x cubed minus 9x cubed. That gives me negative 7x cubed. And so we're going to knock those off. We have a negative 2x squared minus 6x squared minus 3x squared. So they're all negative. So 2 and 3 give me 5. Negative 5 plus negative 6 is a negative 11. Knock those off. The last one I'm doing is the 6 minus 2, so that gives me 4x. And I can knock that one off, and then I just bring the positive 2 down for the ride. And that's it. It's not as hard as you are making it out to be. Just follow it slowly, do one step at a time, and you will be fine. Hopefully you like this and give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. At His Vessel Academy, we offer live interactive classes as well as some self-paced courses. Visit hisvesselacademy.com for more information and register today.